morning, everyone, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. We are starting a little early this morning because the fabulous Gladiator Guru is en route back to sunny Florida. And we've had to adjust our time so that she could not miss her plane and not miss the show. So, good morning, everyone. I am the badass Buddha, Lori Monaco, coming to you from a gray and rainy, snow mixed Southern Connecticut. And it is Tuesday, right? It's Tuesday. Yes, I don't even know what day it is. And we welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche, where we are continuing with our accountability month. So, good morning.
Good morning, buenos días, mi gente. Here I am. It is like snowing over here, and some flights were canceled, but mine says it's on time. So let's do this.
All right. And good morning to Jesse and Jesse Melendez, Rena Bacalar, and Cindy Vigo. Good morning to all of you. Wonderful to have you here. I know our regular crew is a little off, I think. They're probably like, I'm wondering, Milagros and Tiffany are usually on, and they're probably going, wait a minute, what? Because I did put into this to even the picture that the time was 7:30 today. So we'll see people jumping on closer to 8 o'clock. But good morning, everyone. We're so happy that you are here. And this is going to be a fabulous conversation today because we're continuing with Accountability Month. All of March, we're talking about accountability. It's the last piece of our quarter where we're talking about owning your truth. You know, we started in January with awareness, and then we went into February with acknowledge and acceptance. And now we are in the month of March with accountability. And then next month, we start actually learning about behaviors and beliefs and things like that. So it's going to be a lot of growth for the first, especially 6 months of this year. So we're glad that you are here. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you share with the rest. Let everybody know where you are this morning, what you're watching.
Yes, Rena Bacalar, my February 14 baby. I am at Bradley International Airport, heading back to Tampa. And when we were driving here, everything was fine until we hit Windsor, and then it was just snow, no plows, and difficult to drive. So my flight's supposedly still on time. So let's see.
Let's see. Hopefully, I mean, not that we don't want you to go. I mean, Gladiator Guru and I got together yesterday in person, and it was great. And we hung out. We took some nice pictures. We posted them. So hey, if you get stuck here, I'm not going to complain.
No, yeah, but I think the family member that would have to drive back here to get me will.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
Rena,
That's
I'm happy you get to attend. She says she finally gets to attend. Yeah, gotta take everything for what it is and leave fear in the top drawer because a lot of people are afraid to fly in this weather. It is what it is. But yeah, like you were saying, these conversations since January um, are pivotal for our growth, for our life, for where we're taking it, where we want to go, to enhance what we already know, to remind ourselves of what we slightly forgot, and to just incorporate things that are going to widen our path to bigger and greater things for our spirit. So that was a great conversation we did have yesterday. And it's true, we're all a work in progress until the day we die. And as long
yep.
as we hold on to that factual truth, right? That we are a work in progress until the day we die. We will never be on power trips, and we will never belittle ourselves for not knowing or not having. It's just act in the moment, show up for yourself where you are, and be the best you can be. Learn and drink coffee. That's what it's all about.
Keep, keep talking, my friend. I want to share the post. So keep going.
So I think anybody has a comment. I mean, we opened up this year with awareness in January, then acceptance, and now we are at the end of accountability. And I think in the order that that goes, that's how you know. You know, how do we learn something? By acknowledging that we were unaware or we didn't participate in our lives in those times. And then when we reach this point, then we do hold ourselves accountable for our shortcomings or for just behaviors that we have grown accustomed to. The survival mode of living in survival mode and environmental behaviors or uh, past traumas that have you believing that nothing will ever happen to you that is good. Hold yourself accountable. You deserve the right to live in joy, live in abundance, live in health.
Yes. Thank you for doing that. Georgianne is on. Hey, Georgianne. Haven't seen you in a while, honey. I'm glad that you're here. This is one of my favorite conversations, this particular one, this title, because we're going to be talking about the difference between mistake and choice. And believe me, there is a difference between the two. So before we get started, let's just set our intention. We're going to do our mantra, and then we'll get started on the conversation. And we have a hard cutoff today at 8:30 for Gladiator Guru to get on that plane. So that's all you're going to have us for today is 7:30 to 8:30 today. So set your intention for whatever that may be. Just set an intention today. And you decide. You could set the intention right now. You could set the intention right after we're done, whatever it is. And you could set multiple intentions multiple times a day, but just be intentional with your day and
Be grateful. Live your day throughout whatever comes in gratitude.
absolutely.
Be intentionally grateful.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll do our mantra and then we'll get started on this conversation. So wherever you are, say it loud and proud. I know Gladiator Guru can't be loud today, but wouldn't that be funny if she was like right in the middle of all those people? All right, here we go. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically
I
courageous.
am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I'm spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole,
And I keep it real.
all day, no
All
doubt.
right. All right. Fantastic. So wonderful, wonderful that you're all here this morning. So today's conversation is again completely along with accountability. So we already talked about the positive things about accountability, the negative things about the challenges with accountability, and we're going to keep talking about that because this is probably out of everything the most challenging piece when a person is stepping into their greatness, stepping into themselves.
Yes.
And when it's easy to become aware. It doesn't mean that we like it, but it's easy to become aware. And once we become aware, then it is challenging to acknowledge and accept it. But even then, we can still say, okay, all right, I see this, I understand this, I believe this. But to take accountability for it is a much bigger challenge for most individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result, they will make excuses for themselves. They will make excuses for what their growth. Like, and a lot of times this isn't somebody who's growing. This is somebody who is just making excuses prior to their growth. Like they're not stepping in to grow. And what we mean by this is the difference between saying I chose to do this and and saying I made a mistake. Gladiator Guru, you purposely dropped your closed off your video?
Yes, I came to a different seat away from people. Hold on. I'll probably be okay.
Okay, there we go. All right. I was missing your face. That's why I was asking. Okay. So choice versus mistake. Okay. I actually have some definitions here that I would like to share. So a mistake is an error caused by a fault, the fault being misjudgment, carelessness, or forgetfulness. It's an act or judgment there's a whole bunch of little definitions. An act or judgment that is misguided or wrong, an error in action, calculation, opinion, or judgment caused by poor reasoning, carelessness, or insufficient knowledge. A choice is mentally making a decision. It's the act of picking between two or more possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Why they're very different things, but yet they constantly get intertwined. And in this way, okay, when somebody does something wrong, they'll often say, "I made a mistake. I made a mistake." And really, it's not that they made a mistake. In fact, there are not that many mistakes in the world. They're there, but there's not that many. Not as many as most people will claim to be, because they want to make sure that they don't take accountability, and that's the piece. Most individuals who say I made a mistake made a bad choice. And rather than owning that choice, they say I made a mistake. The
Yes.
difference, the main difference between these two words is accountability. A choice makes you accountable. A mistake makes you not accountable. Good morning, Milagros.
Milagros, bienvenida. You know, and people like to tend to excuse themselves, remove themselves with I made a mistake. And I think it's, I think it's upheld for so many years, and it has been a staple in many relationships, because the one who made the poor choice and the one wounded is not ready to change their lives, to see the truth. So when they say I made a mistake, it won't happen again. That's something that many people want to hear, because they don't want change. Because if you hold yourself accountable to accepting what is, then you must make a change. Sometimes your whole life gets turned upside down. So when a person says, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, it's excusable. Even when our children say that, we let it ride instead of saying, no, you chose this. Let me tell you something about Rena, and I hope she's still on. Tiffany put me through a lot of changes when she was 13, wit's end. And Rena said one day, when you speak to her, don't yell at her. Tell her you're disappointed in her actions. And that worked. When I said that to Tiff, she was like, oh my God, like it made an impact. So what all that to say is, even with children, when they make mistakes and they say it was a mistake, I didn't mean to do it, when we don't let them know what their actions made us feel, their choices, then they're gonna continue to make mistakes and grow into adults that make mistakes. You
Yeah.
remember that conversation, Rena? So it's it's not a, I don't know, I don't think it's a good thing. Please share your comments. But Laura, I want you to share your personal thing or what you were talking about yesterday about mistakes and choices. This is very dear to both of us in different scenarios, and I guess to many of us, because sometimes we just let shit slide, and the mistakes build, and then we get confused of what is a mistake and what is a choice, because we've allowed it to settle around us. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point, because we didn't talk about that yesterday, about how when somebody tells you they made a mistake, it also, the person on the receiving end, who, even though deep down knows that it wasn't a mistake, it truly was a choice, they will accept it as the mistake, because they themselves don't want to be accountable to that change that must be made.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually quite deep. I didn't even think about it from that perspective, but that is absolutely true. So Jesse says, isn't there a difference between saying I made a mistake and doing it again? It's a choice, not a mistake anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, so Jesse, the thing is that there are very few mistakes, truly. Like, a mistake is, like when you really didn't know what the outcome would be. Like, you like really had no clue. Like, you're driving down the road and you took a left when you should have taken a right. That's a mistake. Putting something in the wrong bin, or doing something because you weren't paying attention, that's a mistake. But most people will claim mistake when they do something wrong, even though it was a choice, because they really did know the consequences. They really did know what was going to happen. It's easier for them to say I made a mistake, because they don't want to take responsibility of it, because then they have to reap, not reap, they have to accept the consequences of their actions. They're gonna There's gonna be some sort of
Hmm.
uh, not punishment, or there could be, but something, right? The consequences of their actions. Good morning, Iritza. It's just like when somebody cheats. Okay, when somebody does that, the first thing out of their mouth is, "Oh, I made a mistake." That's so not true. It was a very active, very thought out choice. Um,
But it is true. There was a mistake.
yeah.
They got caught. They
Yeah.
messed up somewhere. They made a mistake somewhere of covering their tracks. See
Another
that?
one was another one was this is what I heard from a family member, um, picking up and leaving, and then uh, like literally walking out of their life, their children's life, whatever, and then turning around and saying, I made a mistake. It's like, you didn't make a mistake. You made a very specific choice to choose you, and be selfish about it. You did not make a mistake. You made a choice. But again, it falls into that piece of, I want to manipulate a situation. I want to play the victim. I want to create guilt within the other parties so that I can get off on this. I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just there were ears in the room, and that I had to switch the subject just for a second because there were ears in the room.
Oh no, but also to clarify, as you were saying, somebody decides to pick up and walk away, walk out of their life, of the life that they were living in that moment, and unfortunately, children are involved. So when they say I made a mistake, that's all we hear, and then we're like, no, you didn't make a mistake, you chose. But do we ever truly ask the person, what do you mean? Which was the mistake, getting married and having children or walking away?
Ah,
Because sometimes things do happen, and all of a sudden now you have a family. That is not what you wanted, but you stay as long as you can. And then you, until you can't take it anymore, and you know the best thing for you in your mind and for them is for you to walk away. uh, that is selfish to an extent. Maintain communication, but sometimes we get so angry when somebody says I made a mistake, that we never fully say which was the mistake.
yeah,
Break it
that's a
down.
good point. But even then, the latter half of that is a choice, right? So like I'll get back because I can talk a little bit more freely now. When it comes to like infidelity, okay? I was told, "Oh, I made a mistake." Okay, you made a mistake for 14 years. You made a mistake every day of your life lying to me. You may so your thing accidental. This is what I was saying to Gladiator Guru yesterday. So your thing accidentally by mistake fell into her thing, because you both happen to be, just you tripped over each other, and it just worked out that way, right? And and when you look at it from that perspective, I can laugh about it now, but it is so asinine to me when somebody says I made a mistake. The moment I hear that, Gladiator Guru and I have trigger. Well, she doesn't like the word trigger. Trigger triggers her. There's certain words that are said that she doesn't care for, and then there's certain words that I hear that I don't care for either. And mistake is one of them for me. Because most of the time a person will say I made a mistake, and they didn't. They didn't. It is an absolute choice. And again, it's that lack of accountability piece. It's like, and this is the key thing, is that if for you to move on in your life, to really move up in your life, you got to take accountability. And that means that you have to own choices. See, what it is we only claim a choice when it was a good one, when outcome came out to the way we wanted it. Oh yeah, no, I did that. I chose that. Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But if it didn't come out the way we wanted it, if it was a bad choice, if there were if there were bad things that happened as a result of what we chose, it becomes a mistake. And that's where you have to be very careful with your language when you're saying these things. You have to be accountable for what you're saying when you're saying I made a mistake or a choice. How about that? It's like you have to be accountable and say, was that really a mistake? So I made a mistake. Was that really a mistake? Did you think about it? Did you have thought in your head about it? Did you look at both sides and say, I don't really want this choice. I want this one, even though I know there's going to be problems. That example that I was giving before with regards to my family member, this individual opted to leave, like leave a country, leave his family. Um, he had already planned it. He got rid of his stuff. He was getting rid of his stuff. He got the plane ticket. He told the youngest of his kids and lied to the kid saying that, I'm only going to be gone for a couple of months. He got rid of everything, told him not to tell your mother, didn't tell the other kids. These were deliberate choices. You know what I'm saying? Like these were not mistakes. You don't make one after another. These were deliberate choices. You purposely did everything in that order, in that manner, to save yourself from hearing the grief or having to be accountable to your decision. And when a person, and this is what I want all of you to think about, to consider. If you are still at that point where you'd much rather call it a mistake than a choice, like I fucked up, I made a bad choice, it's my fault. Okay. If you say, no, I made a mistake. When a person chooses not to be accountable for their choices, chooses to say, oh, I had no idea, it wasn't my fault, it is the most cowardice thing to do. It takes extreme bravery to be accountable. So you could applaud yourself the moment you step up and say, you know what, it was on me, I did this, I'm going to take responsibility for it. You are extraordinarily brave.
Okay, let's flip that for a minute now, because I hear what you're saying. And then I've run into a lot of women who plead with their partner. We're talking about partners. Just tell me the truth. Just be honest. I'm asking, tell you the truth. So when they choose to tell the truth, and then now the partner who wanted another truth is wailing like a fish out of water, accusing him of hurting her, of causing her trauma. So I think when you walk in your truth, you're making choices that are best suited for your life, because you're your number one priority.
True
Without the going out there to hinder or harm anyone on purpose. Always knowing to be unapologetically courageous, you have to understand that when you walk your truth and you make choices for your life, because that's the only thing you're responsible for, aside from sharing kindness, is that you will be attacked. You will wound people. People will be wounded by your choices because of their expectations.
Correct.
And
Yes.
because their lack of accountability.
Yes.
So then you're going to be labeled selfish. You're going to be labeled all kinds of things. So in that, I know many of us have experienced that. You have to understand that to walk in your truth is your truth. It is your God-given birthright. So not everybody's going to like what you have to say, but if you come from a place of certainty within, and you come from a place of what's best for me, and make choices, because for every choice you make, there's a consequence, whether it's good or bad. There's a
Correct.
consequence. So a lot of people are afraid to make choices, Laura. You know, you've come across them, because they're afraid of how the other one is going to perceive
Yes.
what they're doing and what they're saying. So right here, to walk in your truth is to make choices that are best suited for you and your purpose, and that will allow others to learn from that. So if you continue to make mistakes, you're really not pouring out into humanity, in other words. And I know that's not our responsibility, but if you fail to show up for yourself at any given day, that is a mistake, because that is you not holding yourself accountable to the purpose of your life.
Well, are you? I
No,
was just.
that's it. Because
I was.
we can't blame like other people for not walking in their truth when we sometimes have failed to make the proper choices for ourselves for fear of wounding or upsetting someone around us.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. The key thing is your truth. This is what this whole quarter is about. It's about being honest with yourself, you know. But the courage piece comes in as to being honest and saying what needs to be said, even though
Hmm.
you know it will affect other people. But you step up and you own it. You know, you be accountable. Say, this does not work for me anymore. I cannot be here anymore. I can't do this anymore. Whatever it is, or I'm not made this way. I'm not built this way. Um, this is not the type of life, that you're wanting. This is not for me. But the problem has been is that most people are just not that honest with each other themselves.
With
And
themselves.
then we can't expect them to be honest with us. And this is where
Absolutely.
that mistake comes in. I made a mistake means that I I'm not brave enough to be, you know, I'm not brave enough to be truthful to you because I can't even be truthful to myself. You know, like the infidelity piece, right? If you have somebody that's a chronic cheater, that's who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like I could get mad all day that that person is that way, but the reality is that that's who they are. But the problems come in is when the person is not willing to be honest about who they are.
Yeah.
You know, I have a good friend who, eh, you know, we talked about going out, you know, and this individual told me exactly who he was. He said he's not a person that's monogamous. He's just not built that way. He doesn't believe in it, and he would love to go out with me, but he would be dating, you know, other women. And there was a little piece of me that got a little not upset, but like a little bit came up because of my of not I'm not going to own it because of my past wounds. But then I stopped and thought about this and I said, this is phenomenal because he's so honest with what he's saying to me. He's saying, this is who I am.
Yeah.
You're either good with it or not. Then that puts the choice on me and it gives me a chance to decide what is best for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can decide on my truth. If I say, no, that's not going to work for me, that's it. Or if I say, oh, no, I'm fine with it. And I lie to myself saying in deep down, oh, I'm not okay with it, but I'm just going to say I am because I want to be with this person. And then at some point, he'll stop doing that. That is on me. And that's not a mistake. I couldn't turn around and say, oh, I made a mistake getting into this relationship. I made a choice. So what ended up happening was I was so appreciative of what he said. And I said, you know what? Well, I do know me and I am monogamous. So that's not going to work for me. So we'll just stay friends. And we did. And we're very close friends. And that's the beauty of it is that honesty, knowing self and being brave enough to say who you are because there's another choice is I'm going to be brave enough to say who I am because I could accept any consequences, any consequences for that choice. If these individuals in my life had been honest with me about who they were, I would have been able to make a choice. Of course, I made choices throughout that weren't serving to me. Once I did start to know things, I made a choice to stay. I made a choice to give them another chance, things like that, you know. But again, if these individuals are not willing to own their own truth, right? Because if you're a chronic cheater, how do you not know you are? I mean, you are. I mean, like, so it's not that they don't know what they're doing. It's not like they temporarily have what is it, amnesia during those accounts, you know? It's not like they have that. They're fully aware. They're just not willing to be accountable to themselves and they're not willing to admit who they truly are. And that's the strength of accountability is huge. We want you to own that strength.
And but first you gotta, With strength comes courage. So you have to fall in love with yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You know, again, the quote from the movie Help: "You is smart, you is kind, you is important." Never in there does it say you are beautiful, you are special. You're smart, you're important, and you're kind.
Yep.
And you know, those, we are very intelligent beings, but we choose to dull our vibrancy to fit in. Or, you know, all my life I was told I'm too much. All my life I was told that I'm loud, to tone it down, to use my inside voice. And you know what? I can't whisper to save my life. And I can only be the person that I am. I can fine tune it. But I'm not going to make changes to accommodate anybody else into my life. I never have. You know, and but there are times in our lives, there are seasons where we vibrate low, and that's where we make poor choices. That's where we allow people to impose their poor choices on us and dressed as a mistake. So I think we cannot hold anybody accountable to their life. We can only hold ourselves accountable.
That's
And
correct.
by doing that, we need to learn what is our power, what, where our boundaries lay, what we will and will not accept from whomever. Not, well, I'm gonna let this one do that because he's the love of my life. I'm gonna let that one do that because it's my firstborn. I'm gonna let that one do that because it's my baby. I'm gonna let this one treat me this way because he's my boss and he sounds my paycheck. So where are you in the mix of you giving pieces of yourself away? Everybody's born to live a life on their own. So when you learn to love yourself, to honor yourself, to respect yourself, and to trust yourself, then the only person you can hold accountable is yourself. And those around you that don't, close the door. Close the
Yep.
door. But to get there, we have to understand who we are, because choices and mistakes, you know, mistakes and choices, I'm sorry about this. Um, you know, we're going to come across close family members, lovers, friends, and foes that will use a poor, bad, intentional error choice and dress it up as a mistake. But what are you willing to tolerate? That's, I think, the question here, right, Badass? What in all of these people claiming a poor choice, a bad choice, an intentional hurtful choice, and dressing it as a mistake, what are you willing to tolerate and from whom? I think that's the real question, because people are going to be who they are, and you're not Captain Save a Hole, and you can't fix what you did not break. So your boundaries must be built solid, and then your trust issues have to always be to a point where you're going to say, fuck that, I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to allow them to do that. Why? Because we've been there, we done it. We ain't. There's no encore. What do you think?
I,
Hi, Tata.
and I absolutely, because the stronger that you get, you will definitely see the difference, and you'll hear it in the person that's saying I made a mistake or I made a bad choice. You know, you cannot, you're not in charge of their choice, their mistake, whatever they're calling it. You're not, they made that choice, they have to deal with their consequences. But you have a choice. You have a
Hmm.
choice of believing them or not. You have a choice of letting them off the hook or not. You have a choice of staying or not. You have a choice, because your life is nothing but choices. It's we, like I said before, we don't, when it doesn't go the way we want it to, or when there is a backlash for what has happened, it's much easier to say, "Oh, I made a mistake," because then you don't have to own it. And then you get to walk away, and other people don't let you necessarily own it either. "Oh, okay, well, it was a mistake. All right, so you're sorry, I get that." But that's the thing. It doesn't matter what the other person says to you. What matters is what you're saying to yourself. You have to look at your life and question yourself out of your mouth. Do I have, is this a mistake? Did I really make a mistake, or did I make a bad choice? Let me tell you, when you are ready to own that, when you step up and get up and say to somebody, I effed up, I made a really bad choice. Like, actually say I made a bad choice, not say I made a bad mistake. Say I made a bad choice and I'm owning up to that. If it involved somebody and they deserved to know that you were being accountable to it. It's brave to do that, and it's not easy. And it's also not easy to admit it to yourself. It is so much easier to just lie to yourself, to pretend you're something else, because again, you don't have to take on that role. I looked at my life, and there were a lot of things that happened to me, true enough, okay? But I had to be accountable to the roles that I played. And one of the roles that I played was uh ignorance. I played a lot of ignorance. I played a lot of oh, I can't see. Oh, really? Is that what? I had blinders on. So I had to take accountability for those choices, for not seeing signs that were there. I had to take accountability for allowing behaviors. I had to take accountability for not sticking up for myself. I had to take accountability for being at such a low place and such a lack place, that I was so needy that I would let people take advantage of me. I had to take accountability for that. I could blame those other people all day. Well, they took advantage of me, or they were treated me poorly, or they bullied me. I could say that all day long. I could say, well, it was my parents' fault because I didn't, I got bullied as a kid and they did nothing about it. There are certain things that, yes, they played a role. Okay. But as I got older, when you're a child, it's a little different. You're still a work in progress. You do need guidance. But when you get to be an adult, you can't blame everybody anymore. You have to take accountability for your choices. And even if there were a lot of people that influenced you, that's the piece you have to take accountability for. I was very influenced. I allowed myself to be influenced, because here's the beauty of it. When you own that piece of it, guess what you get to do? You get to let go of that piece too. If you say, I was easily manipulated and influenced, you get to also say, and that's not going to happen anymore because I allowed it. You're muted, Gladiator Guru.
I said absolutely.
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because accountability stems from within. When you hold yourself accountable, you can read a room like the CIA, like if you trained with FBI and CIA. You know why? Because you know what it looks like. You know how it dresses up because you own it. So it's easy to see it in someone else. Okay.
You boarding?
So, no, not yet.
Okay.
So, I think that discovering that I am and holding on to who you are with all your flaws. I mean, how beautiful is it that you can go back and says, I remember this time in my life when this happened to me, like what you were saying, Lori, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. You have the sharpest tools in the shed right now because you lived it. You didn't read
Yes,
about it.
I
Someone didn't
agree.
tell you their story. You lived it.
And I'm
So,
grateful.
and you should never look on your past and be ashamed or have any type of guilt for that. What you need to do is move forward and understand who you are. And when you truly understand who you are, you understand that everybody has the courage to even utter the word accountability,
Yeah, I agree.
much less say, I hold myself accountable. That's not something that, unfortunately, that everybody is like caregiving. It's not for everybody. It doesn't mean you love that person less. Just what it means is you don't have what it takes to be that person. So, and that's how it is with being accountable. People just choose not to. It's not a mistake that they don't know how. But today's internet and all that, it's a choice not to be accountable for yourself or to anyone around you. And that's
Yep.
my take on it.
Yeah.
You can't, it's not something that, oh, I never learned it. Man, it's like when people say, I didn't learn that. They didn't teach me that in school. So what have you done with your life in between schooling? Self teaching yourself. But anyway, yeah, I think
Well,
when we hold ourselves accountable, we're really living the life we were born to be. Because like anything, it's not always good. There's going to be moments where it's painful to be accountable to your choices, because when you choose you, you will always hurt and wound people around you because of their lack of or overindulgence of. Because I can't say this enough, people who mind what you're doing and how you're living your life, they don't matter. The people who matter are the ones who don't mind the changes you are going through.
yeah. Yep. They because they support you. And they understand what you're doing, and I'll tell you, in the beginning, when you have not been truthful to yourself, when you have not been true to yourself, when you have not been accountable on a regular basis, it is very hard in the beginning. It's very awkward, it's very hard, it's very uncomfortable, because you constantly view yourself as like, wow, I made, like, what a big mistake, or no, I'm mistake. Wow, I'm such a bad person. This is what you're gonna say these things in your head. You're gonna be like, oh God, it's another thing that I have to be accountable to. It's another thing. Don't beat yourself up that way. This is the transition piece. The moment that you start to look and make a list of your life, like, take a moment and think about your life. Think about all the things that have happened in your life that have been challenging or even bad. And what role did you play? That's how you have to start with this. What role did you play? Start it when you were about 18 years old. Okay. Don't go back to when you were a teen or a child, because there were too many influences. You were still growing. Okay. It's not saying that we didn't make bad choices when we were kids, especially teens. It's not saying we didn't make mistakes, but let's just say as adults, let's say, even if you want to start at 20, what what bad things that happened in my life, what role did I play? It's not that did I play a role. You were there. If you were there, you played a role. Okay. So that's how you have to look at it. Unless you were not there, you did you and even then, sometimes it depends on the circumstances, but what role did I play? And go back and look at that and say, what, and then, what did I learn from that? Like, how did that shape me? Did it shape me in a negative way? And if it did, you have the power to change that. That's the beauty of the accountability piece, is that you can walk in your truth and say, I know who I am. Like, nobody can tell me otherwise, because I know who I am. I'm very much accountable to myself. As you transition in from that uncomfortable feeling of being accountable to self, little by little, it gets easier and easier. And it gets to the point where you would want to do nothing but be accountable. And you make less errors, like, you make less bad choices in your life, the more accountable you become, because you align with who you are. You know yourself. So there's not a lot of wiggle room to f it up, because you know yourself. So you would right away know, no, that's not going to work for me, or yeah, that's going to work for me. And if I do this, yep, it's going to probably affect people's lives, but I have to do for me. And but you also you're so transparent. That's a word I don't really care for, but people see who you are and they know who you are. And then it's almost like they get to expect that from you anyway. So if you say, like, I'm not really I'm not really a people person. I don't like a lot of company. I'm like that. If you let that out and you like verbalize it to people, that's just not me. So if a whole bunch of people just show up at your house and you get annoyed by it, people have to know, well, I mean, she did say that, like she said, she's not really a crowd person. So why would we have showed up? It helps people also navigate their lives around you in a more respectful way. And you get to say, when somebody has an expectation of you and they say, oh, you this or you that, or I thought you would do, you'd be like, what made you think that? What did I say or do that would make you think that? Because you're so accountable to yourself. You walk in your truth. Nobody could turn around and say you did this or I meant this or you meant that. They can't do it because you already know yourself. But it starts with accountability. Like, you have to step it up. You have to say, okay, I have to be accountable for this piece. I have to be accountable for this piece. Oh, I said this wrong thing. I apologize. It wasn't my intention. And Gladiator Guru is right. You cannot control who you upset, who you injure, things like that. True enough. But when you're accountable and you own your truth, you know what to say and what not to say anyway. Like like, I know I could easily hurt people. I mean, I know how people are. I know people in my family. There's a lot of stuff that I could just spew out that would be very hurtful and problematic. But I choose not to do that, because what's the point? Like, why would I do that? Like, if I was going to do that, that's just for me. And I'm doing that because why? I'm feeling some sort of way and I want to hurt them. But if somebody gets hurt because of who I am, my choices, and then that's on them. And I'm not taking ownership of that. That's their accountability piece. Years ago, I had a friend that she turned out to be quite a narcissistic individual, but I didn't know this because we were young, and I witnessed a car accident. I was driving by myself and I witnessed a car accident. It happened right in front of me. I was the only one right there when it happened. Two cars almost hit each other, and it was because one that was driving recklessly, so much to the point that I got out of the car and I pulled one of the people out of the car. I was like 17 or something like that, 16 years old, something like that, right? And the ambulance came and the police came, and I drove home. I made sure everybody was okay, and then I was like right down the street. I called my friend and I said, I just witnessed an accident, and I think I'm going to go to the police station and tell them what happened, because I saw it. Like, I was the only one who saw the whole thing. She actually got mad at me. She said, why? Why do you need to go there? Why would you want to go and tell them about the accident? I said, because it's the right thing to do. It's like, I saw the accident, like I witnessed the accident. And she got so angry at me that she hung up on me. She's like, well, if you go, I don't want to talk to you. And she hung up. And there was a little part of me that got a little like, well, I don't want to upset her. But then I thought, you know what? No, that's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is go and report it. Screw her if she's going to get upset, And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, could you take me to the police station, because I want to report that accident that I saw? And he said, okay. And we went. And I got home, and my friend didn't want to talk to me for a while. Like, I mean, to this day, I don't know what that was all about, because that was just the most bizarre thing, in the world. But I realized that, and it's too bad I didn't keep persistent with that, to say, this is BS. Like, I know who I am. I'm that type of person. If I witness something, I'm going to be, like, say something about it. So her deal was not my deal. That's all I want to say. Good morning,
Is it
Catherine.
me that froze?
Yeah, just for a second. You're good now. You're good. What do you want to add? Because we have to end in 6 minutes. Can you hear me? Gladiator Guru, can you hear me? Can you hear Gladiator Guru?
Is it me that froze?
You're not frozen. Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay. No, you're not frozen. You want to talk or no?
Oh, I can see myself now. Yeah. No, I couldn't see myself. But I gotta start going, and this conversation is really good. So we'll continue it, but people are starting to line up.
Okay, so let's end the show then. Thursday we will have. Thursday we will have. I had no choice. This is going to be a really good conversation on Thursday. I had no choice. We're going to talk about that particular statement. So we want to thank everybody for coming on today and being patient with us. That we started earlier and that Gladiator Guru was at the
I'm at the airport.
airport.
Yes.
And we want you to
Because
have a beautiful flight, safe trip. We'll see you back in Tampa on Thursday. So we'll call it a day from the Badass Buddha. Remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
yes, and I'm sorry we're cutting out 5 minutes earlier, but yes, thank you for putting up with all the background noise. And from the Gladiator Guru, remember mi gente to breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste. Thank you,
Namaste,
Katie.
everyone.